I'm Digibro, and this is the Rant Hole, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons tell me to. You could have a rant read by me as well, or performed by me, I guess, if you also were a patron. This one's from Kusojin, who truly lives up to his name by giving me 3 topics instead of just 1. Number 1, how do you go from an idea to an actual script? Number 2, more bands that no one talks about. And 3, how you went from doing nothing but videos at the end of 2016 to engaged. I'm going to actually do all 3 of these just because I don't think I would have a ton to say about any of them in particular. But how I go from an idea to an actual script, it really depends on how viable the idea is. Sometimes I have an idea and I just immediately get to work on it. If I think, like, something like, for instance, the tsundere, the de-evolution of tsundere video. That was one where I just was sitting around thinking about tsunderes, the idea popped into my head, and even before I made it into a video, I literally just gave a rant to May that was almost exactly what the script of the video is. Like, we were walking to the store, and I just rattled that off, and then I was like, you know what? That would be a good video. Everybody knows what tsunderes are. Everybody's going to be curious about it. It'll probably get a shitload of views. It would be stupid not to make that video. So I just came home and churned out the script. And generally, I would say the hardest thing about making a video, particularly like that one, is finding the starting point. It's like, where am I going to... You know, I could start from anywhere in history. I could start from any kind of point. Where do I want to begin from? And sometimes I have multiple ideas about how to go about that, and I just keep thinking about it till I find the right one. Other times, I immediately know what the first sentence is going to be. And for me, the first sentence is often like the biggest bulk of like what my pre-planning was. Because once you have that locked in, it's very easy to just flow from there. Just say the thing that makes sense following that sentence. And if I'm talking about a show where, like, let's say I'm going through it chronologically, it's pretty easy because you can just start from the beginning. You just say, like, well, this is a video about episode 2 of Log Horizon, so how does it start off? Episode 2 of Log Horizon starts off immediately with finding out that death doesn't have the same consequences in this world as it does in the real one. Like, then you just talk about that, and then look for the next scene, and talk about that scene, and go on from there. That kind of stuff's easier to do. But, like, sometimes I hold on to a concept for a long time. Sometimes there's something I want to talk about, but I don't really know how, or I don't think it'll be successful enough, so I just hold on to it, and I mull it over more and more in my mind, and develop more of a full picture of it. But in general, I don't really view my videos in such a way where I know what the whole thing is going to be before I start. It's usually more like I figure out what the concept is, and I write the opening bit, and I have a vague idea of where I want this to go, but the actual writing of it is usually just one long stream of consciousness that I just barrel through. As for bands that nobody talks about, off the top of my head, Sunshine Faces is an interesting, like, Bandcamp, like, ethereal kind of, what would I describe it as? Just, like, bedroom-produced, like, atmospheric music with, like, a shoegazy edge. They have an album called Letting You Know that, I found on, like, a 4chan share thread. Maybe I already talked about this in one of those videos. I don't even remember. Like, it's hard to say what bands no one talks about because I don't necessarily participate in a lot of conversation about music, so it's hard for me to know, like, if I suggest something, is it going to be something that really no one talks about, or is there secretly a fandom? Usually it's like, if there's something a band I'm sure no one's talked about, it's because they're old and forgotten, or they're like, a band camp who nobody's listened to. If I ever come up with another 5, I'll just do another one of those videos, because, basically each of those was inspired by me listening to my own, my favorite music a whole lot, and hearing some of those bands and going like, oh man, somebody's got to talk about fucking Black Black or Pearls and Brass, and then a video spawns out of that. But anyways, as for the third question, which I have already forgotten, so I'm going to get back out the laptop, and I really don't want to have to edit these videos, so I'm just going to keep rambling as I try to open it back up. How you went from doing nothing but videos at the end of 2016 to engaged. I mean, it happened pretty simply. Like, at the end of 2016, I was just doing videos constantly because I just had nothing really better to do with my time, and I like making videos. It's just a good way to throw myself into something. And but I was getting really bored because I was really lonely. I didn't really have friends around. I didn't really have anything worth doing in my hometown, or like, anything to throw myself into besides videos. So at the start of 2017, I was planning to move out of my house because I was finally making enough money to do that. And initially, my plan was to just go, like, I was going to get an RV and just, like, live in different cities for a month at a time and, like, figure out which one I liked the most. But that seemed like a hassle because RVs are not as easy to get at a decent price, because basically, if you buy them new, they're expensive, and if you buy them used, they degrade in quality very quickly. They're not a good investment because they immediately become worthless after you buy them. So, I was worried about it from an investment standpoint, and instead I decided that I would just drive around the country and stay with a bunch of my friends for a week at a time and decide what city I liked that way. But it just so happened that around this same period, May had started Snapchatting me because she was just interested in me. She was a hardcore fan who had watched all my stuff and just thought that we'd be, like, wanted to see what we would be like together, and really just wanted to offer whatever she could to me. She was just like, hey, even if it's just like a fucking forget, like, at least I could do something for you, kind of thing. And so I was like, sick, like, I'd love to meet up with you. And originally she was going to come down to see me, but when I decided to do this tour of the country, I was just like, I'll just fucking drive up to your house first and then, continue on my journey. And I did. I drove up to her house. We had a really amazing time. I ended up falling in love with her. After I finished my tour, we ended up moving in together in Rochester. Everything went extremely well. It's all I can really say. And by New Year's, I decided to propose because, New Year's is my favorite holiday. It's sort of the only like event that I take particularly seriously, and it was kind of the thing where it was like, as soon as this ball drops, I want us to start this year together. I want us to start this year engaged and go forth from there. We haven't really had the financial stability to actually have a wedding yet, but whenever that happens is when it happens. And that's how it happened. And that's your rant. I hope you enjoyed.